Finding an image is obviously the tricky part. That's an obvious thing for me to say. But quite often I find images from the corner of my eye, really. I see the elements as I'm driving through a place, off in the distance, and I realize that if I get myself in the right place and line these forms up, then I can generate a composition that is significant to me. Sometimes there's a fair bit of, there's always luck involved, but I don't know if serendipity is the term or not, but if it is, that's the word I'm going to use. Because you sort of can imagine something's going to be there, and then you'll show up, and sure enough, there it is. I guess that comes from familiarity with a place. But generally, you see forms off in the distance, and you put them together in your head, and then you get closer to them, and hopefully there they are, and sometimes they're not. But it's why working in big open spaces is something I like doing, because I can just see further. I can see more. When I start working, when I leave the city, it takes 3 days of driving and being out of the city before I start seeing things. And that is sort of a period of time that I use to relax, to forget that people are expecting things of me, that I'm expected to find work. And I need that time to forget about any demands that might be on me. And I just think about myself and the images I'm looking for, and the pressure drifts away, and then I'm just there working with my camera and my wife, Andre. So yeah, it takes 3 days to sort of get the baggage off your shoulders before you can see and think freely enough to find photography that interests you or interests me. It's really important to me that I work in areas that I'm very, very familiar with. Being familiar with a location lets you see past the obvious, and you concentrate on the more subtle aspects of a location. So instead of seeing sort of romance and beautiful things, you find the beauty in more subtle things that other people don't really consider. You develop sort of a reverence for these places. It's why I don't work outside of Newfoundland at the moment, because I'm just not familiar enough with other places. They don't mean as much to me. The place has to mean something to me for me to find things in. I am from Newfoundland, and I've grown up in these places. I feel I have a right to look at them in such a simple way. I realize now that I can go back and back and back to these same places over and over again, and that one observation of a place does not end its visual importance or significance. Or you can go back and look at things over and over again and document how things change. And so one observation is not the end of an image's validity. Soccer pitch garnish was taken in a community called Garnish on the Burin Peninsula. I think of it as actually kind of a funny photograph. I like humor in my work, although I know it doesn't really discuss humor very much, but to me, there's quite often elements that I think are quite funny that I hide here and there. I mean, this is just such a ridiculous image, the sort of sad cloud on top of this building with this celebratory banner that, for some reason, the shadows on the building don't mimic the shape of the banner at all. It doesn't make any sense, once again. But I find when you're driving around rural Newfoundland all the time, it is the most quiet place. You don't see a lot of people, and it's you see stuff like this quite a lot, where something festive is either about to happen or has already happened, but there's never anybody there. There's never anything happening. So it's really bizarre. Someone had a good time here or was about to have a good time here, but you never see him having a good time. It's always just these little bits of decoration in emptiness. So my notion of what sublime is something that's so vast and incomprehensible, but also beautiful. The tension between something dangerous and something beautiful is how I feel about an image that is sublime, that deals with those elements. So there's a dream that my mother and I have. We call it the big small dream, my late mother. And what it is it's something vast and ominous. And then there is this incredibly small object that approaches this vast mass. And this small, fragile object is somehow about to destroy this mass. It threatens the mass. And there's this tension that forms by this fragile shape approaching this mass. And a tension develops there. And they never actually touch. But it's the tension of these two vastly different objects approaching each other and the tension that builds up between them that gives you a very unsettling feeling. It's not necessarily a pleasant dream, but it's a feeling of sort of ominous force that is about to be unleashed, but it never happens. And it in itself is a sublime feeling, this tension that is formed by something massive and something beautiful together. I did a lot of work for Newfoundland Tourism, which I'm lucky to have had. Not these new campaigns that Newfoundland has been doing lately. This was before those campaigns. And my job was to go out and photograph Newfoundland in a very pleasant way. Photographs that had fog or any sense of desperation in them were absolutely useless. Everything had to be beautiful and shiny and hopeful. And that it was great to have that work, and I'm pleased I had it, but it bothered me because that is not how I saw Newfoundland. I didn't think I was telling the truth. That was not my role as a commercial photographer to do that. I had to create an image. That's why I was hired to do it. So I found it frustrating, and I realized that my Newfoundland was absolutely nothing like this. It was a much more challenging place. Its beauty lay in much more subtle things, that what made it hard to love was also what made it beautiful. Newfoundland requires at times your effort to like it. It's not a lush place where enjoyment and happiness is done for you. You got to work at it at times because it can be pretty harsh and kind of lonely in places, but it is beautiful and it is sublime. So in my photography, I decided just to concentrate on how I saw Newfoundland as beautiful. And that was to not romanticize it, to let its harshness be beautiful, and to point out in the stillness and quietness of the images that Newfoundland's beauty and power lies in harder places and in harsher environments. It's what the island is.